Hi there, I'm Noelle, or One-Nighty Girl, and today we're going to be discussing bosses, the big bad enemies that almost always make you engage in boss battles. Some of them are really fun, but other ones are stinkers, like the Mecha Wiggler from Mario Odyssey. That's probably my least favorite boss in any game. But today we're going to be going over the opposite of that, my favorite bosses. So, let's get into it. I really like New Super Mario Bros. U, it being my favorite of the New Super Mario Bros. Games. And in that game, the main boss fights are against the Koopalings, Boom Boom, Kamek, Bowser Jr., Boss Sumo Bro, and Bowser. Out of all of these, while I really like Boss Sumo Bro, Kamek, and Bowser, I think Iggy takes the cake as my favorite boss. Iggy is my favorite of the Koopalings in general, and I just really enjoy playing his fight in New Super Mario Bros. U. I just find the wall running mechanic very interesting and unique. He's honestly the only boss that I really struggle with in that game, and it'd be really cool if he could run walls in Mario Maker instead of his lame walking back and forth mechanic, since it's really the lamest mechanic of all the Koopalings. Like I said in my Mario Odyssey 2 wishlist, hint hint, Molly Boss Bob is one of my favorite Mario bosses. And I honestly can't really explain why, I've just always found his fights really fun and chaotic, especially his rematches. I've also always loved his design, making it so that a boss that most people find forgettable, to me being an absolute gem of a fight that I'd love to see return. The Snatcher is one of my favorite bosses from A Hat in Time, and also one of my favorite characters from that game in general. I just always loved how he speaks, he was super funny to me, he just oozed charm, I love him. And I love his boss fight all the same, it just being super cinematic with his laser attacks, and that wink attack is super cool, and it's amazing. I love how he speaks, and just the jokes in the fight are amazing. I love this fight so much. The Mean Bean Machine from Sonic Mania is such an amazing idea, I'm surprised that Sega hasn't made an attempt to make it before, but I sure am glad that Christian Whitehead took that chance. Puyo Puyo is one of my favorite puzzle games, being beat by Tetris and yes, Yoshi on the NES. Yes, Yoshi on the NES is my favorite puzzle game of all time. Anywho, yes, this boss fight is incredible. Bringing Sonic and Puyo Puyo together is an incredible idea, and while Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 did this in 2021, Sonic Mania did it first, and I love it. It's not hard in the slightest, I don't think I've ever died during the fight, but it's just straight up fun, and of course the music is incredible, like most music in Sonic Mania. While not a boss itself, Boom Boom is one of my favorite additions to Mario Maker 2, and easily the best boss in that game, at least in my opinion. Why exactly? Well, because it leads to incredibly creative and fun custom boss fights, as there's no real gimmick or projectile that he shoots. Which may make Bowser Jr. or Larry fit more situations, but I just think that Boom Boom does overall, like especially in 3D World because he's the only boss that you can keep still. Which makes him really the only useful boss in that game style. Overall, Boom Boom is pretty cool because of what creators can do with him. Sinnoh is my favorite region in Pokemon, Platinum being my favorite game, and Cynthia being my favorite character. And her fight is just as amazing as her character, as it's just super fun and memorable. Her team, at least in Platinum, is comprised of Spiritomb, the Pokemon with no weaknesses, Roserade, one of my personal favorite Pokemon, Togekiss, a pretty bulky and powerful flying type, Lucario, basically the mascot of Sinnoh, Milotic, an incredibly beautiful and bulky Mon, and her famous Garchomp, the incredibly scary ace of her team. It's famously one of the hardest fights in Pokemon, and that's not a bad thing at all, it just adds to her memorability. And yeah, it is hard. Celeste is one of my favorite games of all time, my second favorite in fact. Both the boss fights in that game, being the fan-named Battleline and Dr. Oshiro, are really good. Dr. Oshiro is a boss fight where you have to run away from the threat, but Battleline is the opposite, where you basically have to go and try to attack her. And this mixes in Celeste platforming that we all know and love, along with putting it into a boss fight, and I just love Battleline's character, as I kinda have my own Battleline, who I call Negative L. The boss is overall just really fun, and Battleline is a character that I both really like and relate to. The next boss comes from my favorite game of all time, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. I just overall adore the concept and execution of this fight. Fighting a literal Ganon puppet is just so creative and fun. and it's super satisfying to cut down his strings with a boomerang, and the ambience and music is just perfect. It's easily one of my favorite parts of my favorite game. Now it's time for my favorite Mario platformer boss, Bowser from Super Mario Galaxy. Just the fact that you do literally all the previous Bowser boss fight is just so cool to me. I really like playing every single phase, and each one is incredibly memorable and fun. I just really like Bowser from Mario Galaxy, one of my favorite incarnations of the character. But my favorite incarnation of Bowser is easily in the Mario and Luigi series, and this boss fight is just godlike. First of all, the music. Oh, the music is just insanely good. And the fight itself, pairing Bowser against someone who can use the same moves as him is just genius. And punching the punch from Dark Bowser to block it is just super satisfying. And the Fawful Core fight is amazing too. It's just so cool. The Blazer Beam attack is super cinematic, and where you have to dodge it with dropping onto Starlow is just, it's so amazing. I just adore this fight to death. And there we go, those are my top 10 favorite bosses. Tell me how wrong my opinions are in the comments, and until next time, I'm One Nutty Girl. Bye bye!